Before we start this video, I would just like to address that I'm not doing the on-camera bits for this video, only because I've been very busy, haven't had much time to do any recording whatsoever. So this video is going to be just talking and gameplay, but if you do miss my ugly mug, don't worry, because next year I will be back on camera like I have been. But until then, please enjoy the video. Hello everyone, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Welcome back to another episode of Young Dad Gaming Reviews, the series where I recount, reminisce, and review the games that I grew up on, as well as decide when or if my son will grow up on the same games, and which ones should be avoided for now due to extreme violence, suggestive themes, or because the game just sucks. Next up, Parasite Eve. Holy good God. The Parasite Eve series is a huge part of my gaming childhood. I say series because I actually grew up with the second one and did not play this one until just a few years ago thanks to the PlayStation Classics on PSN. I went through it a second time and almost a third in a single night just trying to get to the true ending. It's fun as hell, definitely difficult, and possibly unforgiving if you're not careful. But it's one of those gems that definitely needs to make a return. And why? Well, let's figure out why the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and get right into it. You play as a half-American, half-Japanese rookie New York police officer named Aya Bria. Represent! While attending an opera on Christmas Eve, people start to spontaneously combust when the lead star, Melissa, begins to sing. Aya's police instincts have her running towards the stage, but also because she was the only one unaffected by this event. When she confronts the singer, she starts gaining powers of her own. Melissa, having transformed and now calling herself Eve, runs away into the sewers where Aya corners her. Eve turns into ooze to escape through the sewer gates, leaving Aya to fight a mutated sewer gator. After the battle, Aya's search for answers in the race to stop Eve's plan of assimilation for the entire human race has you teaming up with your colleague, Detective Daniel Dawes, and Japanese scientist Kunihiko Maeda. This is basically the story in a nutshell, and to give anything more away would honestly be a Christmas offense. And I can also guarantee you that you will never play a game that talks about sperm as much as this game, nor will you ever play a game where you have to fight a giant fetus. With a unique mixture of exploring, role-playing, and a hint of survival horror, Parasite Eve is one of the most interesting games I've ever played. The majority of the game is spent exploring different locations around New York City, all connected by a very fun and very PlayStation 1 map screen. In each area, random encounters occur with mutated enemies specific to that area. For instance, at the Central Park Zoo, you fight snakes, primates, a polar bear, and 4 giant worms. Okay, that one I don't really get. Each enemy has their own abilities that don't always make much sense, but still are pretty cool. The monkeys launch a boomerang type appendage at you, and rats will shoot fireballs at you from their tails. Now, I know this is supposed to be from their mitochondria going through rapid evolutionary changes, but it just seems like an excuse to give them random powers. Wouldn't it have made more sense to make the rats spit acid, or something comparable to rats carrying diseases and their attacks infecting you? Perhaps give the monkeys extra limbs, a play on monkeys using their tails as an extra appendage? appendage. I won't nitpick too much, but it does seem a bit random. As you fight enemies, you of course gain XP, and when you level up, stats such as offense, defense, ATB speed, and inventory space are also improved. Ah yes, the ATB bar. The game doesn't have your traditional RPG turn-based battle mechanics. Instead, you're placed in a battle arena-like area with a timer that builds up as time goes on. Once full, you can take an action, similar to the Final Fantasy VII attack battle timer. As you level up and find better weapons and armor, you can find perks that give you abilities like auto heal, resistance to various negative status effects, a second action to take during battle, how many times you can shoot in a turn, rapid fire, burst fire, random fire, fire. It's a really intricate weapon modding system and adds some great replayability to the game, as you can build up your dream weapon and carry it over to a New Game Plus mode called EX Game. The EX Game isn't just a second playthrough with stronger weapons either. It unlocks the Chrysler Building, which is a special location/dungeon. If you're familiar with Tartarus from Persona 3, it plays very much the same. You have to ascend 77 floors, battling increasingly difficult enemies and bosses. But this isn't just a challenge dungeon. Conquering the Chrysler Building unveils the true ending to Parasite Eve, and you have to work your ass off, putting in hours of gameplay and grinding to even stand a chance against the enemies inside, only to come face to face with a boss that really makes you feel like you're going toe to toe with a god. And as someone who grew up playing the sequel instead of this first game, this true ending opened up a whole new door of ideas and perspectives on the sequel that I had never thought about. I might make a video about that one day. The game has a unique way of pacing itself through the main campaign. You are introduced to the characters and immediately placed in a combat situation, which is then followed by a lot of voiceless dialogue and exposition. Also, the exposition is sometimes so blatant and hilarious. But these dialogue sections help set the pace and break you away from all the fighting and random encounters. As I said earlier, the gameplay in Parasite Eve is very unique, but holds up very well, even though it can be pretty off-putting to new players. The actual gameplay and dialogue scenes are very typical looking for the time period the game came out in. This is PS1 as you know it. The funny thing is, Aya was originally created as a test model for Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. Speaking of, Final Fantasy had a popularity for incredible FMV sequences, and Parasite Eve is no exception. This is Square Enix after all. Sorry, Squaresoft. The FMVs in this game are epic and still hold up amazingly to this day. From the metamorphosis of the rat, the very John Carpenter inspired dog boss, to this epic helicopter fight. Though some of the FMVs have not aged very well, and they are Japanese as fuck. Like, this is back in the day when if you asked a Japanese man what an American man looked like, he would probably describe Guile. Though, to be fair, this is one of the best scenes I have ever seen in a video game. Parasite Eve uses pre-rendered backgrounds that are still very nice to look at, but at times can cause difficulty in understanding what you're looking at to the point where you can get lost and confused, especially when you have to activate something in the environment, but you have to stand at the pixel-perfect spot. The music in this game was composed by the incredible Miss Shimomura Yoko, and good god is it haunting and beautiful. And it really does need to be captivating and awesome, as it's pretty much all you'll be hearing, since there is no voice acting, not many enemy sounds, and basic weapon firing, footsteps, and object interaction sounds. The visual introduction to this game is just amazing, but it's definitely capped and perfected by this awesome soundtrack. The piano in this track is just so eerie and lovely, and the juxtaposition of sweet melodies with a foreboding harmony is great. But as much as I like this song, it reminds me a little too much of Final Fantasy, or, as weird as it sounds, Banjo-Kazooie. Just listen. Parasite Eve is definitely a strange game that may have aged poorly due to its overall style, but is it still worth trying out, and is it a hidden gem? I would easily have to say yes. Parasite Eve is of a genre of games that are stylized and story heavy. It brought something to gaming that not too many games had back in the day. Sure, nowadays story-driven games are huge, and many are becoming cinematic gaming masterpieces. But Parasite Eve wasn't afraid to dabble in the strange and obscure. They praised the weirdness they had in this story without taking it too far. While some of its FMVs and dialogue are blatant and just plain goofy, it was able to hold its own even to this day. Like I mentioned earlier, yes, the combat style and difficulty can be a bit off-putting to some, and it is definitely a product of its time. But it's still one of those games that's a unique experience, and another series that I hope comes back. Overall, I give Parasite Eve 4 mitochondria cells out of 5. The music is captivating, the FMVs are a joy to watch, the story is intriguing, and ball-to-the-wall crazy at the same time. The only downside for me is the heavy grinding that needs to be done to level up enough to see the true ending. It's tedious and very time-consuming, but well worth it since that final boss really feels like an epic struggle. Or you can just watch it on YouTube, but where's the fun in that? As for games I would let my son play, I would give this an absolutely, but maybe give it a few years. Not because the material is gross or inappropriate for kids, it's just that it can be quite difficult to follow, and you will definitely get more enjoyment out of the game when you can understand the story and the questions it brings up rather than just the gameplay. As for nostalgia value, I actually grew up with the sequel and didn't experience this game until years later, thanks to the PlayStation Store, but I would give this a solid 3 punched reporters out of 5, as I can see this game being something someone enjoyed when they were younger due to the strangeness of it, and then came back to it many years later and they were just flooded with the emotions and memories of their first time playing it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment down below, hit that subscribe button for more gaming reviews, and hit that bell to be notified. Also, don't forget to check out Eli's channel down below for some great music covers. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and have a safe and happy New Year. I'll see you guys on the other side of 2021. Bye bye.
You just remember what your old pal said. Boy, you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me.